Welcome to our third Sterling 7-minute leadership briefing session on the organizational profile. My name is Laura McNeil. I am a 20-year Sterling Master Examiner, and this series focuses on the importance of the organizational profile and how understanding the context of each of its components will help leaders build role model organizations, as well as role model individuals within the organization. Just a couple general reminders before we get started with today's session. There is that work along template. You can either download it from the chat window or you can locate it on the floridasterling.com site in Learning and Development tab. If you previously had the file downloaded and were working on it, now's a great time to pull it out so that you can update it during today's session. Our series will also run through the end of May, so make sure that your calendars are marked. The Zoom details are the same for each session, so just copy that link and bring it forward. The presentations will be downloaded and uploaded to YouTube in 24 hours after our presentation. And while we are hosting the presentation, please log any questions you may have in the chat window, and we will have a Q&A after our sessions today. So today's organizational profile session is defining your mission, vision, values, culture, and core competencies. And we have Sterling Master Examiner, Baldrige Examiner, and Sterling Board Member John Kueven with us from WellStar. He's the president of Paulding and Cobb Hospitals in Atlanta, Georgia. So John, you want to take us through the mission, vision, values, and core competencies?
Absolutely. Laura, can you see my screen? Just want to do a check.
Yeah, we sure can.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Excited to chat with you this afternoon. I love these 7-minute series, but they go quick. So I'm going to dive right in. Today, you heard in the previous presentation about the org profile. Again, this is your starting point for your organization. It encompasses everything that is important. It's your executive summary of your Baldrige application, but more importantly, it helps ground you in making sure you document what is critical to your organization. And as part of that organizational profile, it asks you to describe your mission, your vision, your values, your culture, and your core competencies of your organization. And I was excited to get to discuss and talk about this. This is a critical part of the work we do as leaders. And I believe this is the foundation of success for an organization. And so your mission, vision, values, your culture, your core competencies, they should guide everything you do. They're fundamental and key components to your organization. And what these should do is to help focus the organization on common expectations. So let's start with kind of mission vision statement. A lot of these are very business school kind of terms. So what is a mission statement? A mission statement is something that gives your organization purpose. It's why you exist as an organization, and it guides the work you do in reminding your team as to why they come in to work every single day. I would certainly recommend mission vision statements to be short, to be memorable. Ours at WellStar is to enhance the health and well-being of every person we serve, and that's why we exist as an organization. The vision statement is slightly different, and a vision statement is really to describe where your organization is headed and what you're constantly striving for. It gives you your true north. It gives your organization the sense of direction to align for strategy and movement and decision making. Again, this one should be sometimes aspirational and something that you may never even achieve, but that you work to achieve every single day. At WellStar, our vision is to deliver world-class healthcare to every person, every time. We see millions of patients literally a year through the WellStar organization, and we strive every day to make sure we deliver every one of them world-class healthcare. And even when we fall short, this is our guiding compass of where we're headed with all of those interactions. And then your values. These are behavioral expectations of your team to ensure that you meet your mission and your vision, and to fulfill those. Oftentimes these are words, and there's nothing wrong with that. You may see compassion, accountability. There may be words. At WellStar, we have values in action. So we are called to serve with compassion, to pursue excellence, and to honor every voice. And we know that through these values and action we can meet our mission and vision. And then there's your core competencies. These are very important. They give your organization a competitive advantage, and core competencies have some definition behind them. What is a core competency, and how do you know it's a core competency? So this competitive advantage should be difficult to replicate. So if your competitor could just wake up tomorrow and decide to do the same thing, it's probably not a core competency. It should also be objectively measurable. So how do you know it gives you a competitive advantage? Are you better than your competitors at it? Do your customers see that you are better at it and gives you an advantage? How do you measure that? And it should be at the core of your strategy. So it should really focus your strategy around leveraging those core competencies to continue the organization forward. At Wellstar Paulding, we have two core competencies. One is patient safety, and we know we are one of the safest hospitals in the country as we look at objective, publicly reported data. We are in the top 10%, often in the top 1 or 2%, or even in the top 0.5% in the country in the work around patient safety and quality. And then employee engagement for us. We also know that we're in the top around 8% in the country in employee engagement. Those are things you can't just wake up tomorrow and start doing if you're a competitor. And so for us, we can objectively measure that these are core competencies. And I also want to put a plug in here. Don't forget to consider future core competencies when you're doing your strategy and your tactics. For us, one of the things that we want to leverage is our work in patient safety to become world-class in employee safety. And we have some work to do there, but that's a future core competency in our strategy. And then for culture, there is always a culture. The question is your culture defined and are you committed to it? At Paulding, we have a cultural motto of neighbors caring for neighbors to delivering world-class healthcare. So it's how we leverage our culture to meet our vision. And that is all over the hospital. Our team members can talk about it. You would hear that reference frequently. And I included this picture in, and I have some people on here, Debbie Voss and Laura McNeil, that were part of the examiner team for Sterling at Wellstar Paulding. And I was proud of this picture, not because I look great in a cardigan, but because when the exit interview or the exit presentation from the group that was there for our Sterling site visit, they made this picture because it was a representation of the culture that they clearly heard and felt while they were visiting with us. And so it was a proud moment for me because it meant that when they left, they understood what our culture was, which is all about being neighbors, caring for neighbors. So is your culture defined? And are you committed to it? And I think at Paulding, we certainly are. The other is there's an adage in healthcare, especially in the medical record, that if it's not documented, it hasn't been done. And the question is, can your entire organization speak to the mission, vision, and values and the culture? And have you documented what those expectations are, what the mission, vision, and values are? And then more importantly, does your leadership team know the core competencies and are they embedded in your strategy? Have you documented these for your team? And this documenting doesn't have to be overly complicated. Certainly at Wellstar, we're a very large organization, so we're able to leverage some marketing tools to make these very pretty colors and everything, but it can just be bulleted items. It can be simple statements. It can be tables, models, whatever you need to document that mission, vision, values, and core competencies. But make sure they're written. Make sure you can deploy them throughout the organization, and they are your base for how you move the organization forward. And these take some work. So in summary, these take work to define. They don't just happen haphazardly. You've got to sit down and figure out what those are. If you don't define them, your organization may not be able to succeed because your employees may not be aligned in the work that they do. They may not have that commonality. And then certainly, I always have to put a plug in for our leaders on this call. Most importantly, as a leader, do your actions support the mission, vision, values? Do you have a systematic approach to the work that you do, exemplifying the mission, vision, and values, and is it part of your leader standard work? And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Yeah, that's great, John. Before we go to Q&A real quick, and this will give a little more time for folks to enter their questions in chat. I'm going to provide everyone with a little bit of summary, my summary notes. So I've written down that mission, vision, values, culture, and core competencies should guide the entire workforce on what the organization does. The mission, vision, and values define where your organization is headed. and you are collective and what you are collectively striving for. Core competencies are difficult to replicate by competitors or others. They do set your organization apart. And then make sure they are well documented, being the MVV, the core values, or mission, vision, values, core values, and core competencies. Those should also include senior leaders that are actually role modeling each of these as principles every day.
Absolutely.
Those were the 4 bullets I captured from your presentation. And then I do have a question to start out with. What are some good suggestions for drafting a good mission or vision statement?
Yeah, great question. And I think the answer is it kind of depends, right? So some organizations like a Wellstar, we're a $4 billion company. We can have resources to go out and pull in external agencies that help us do focus groups. They talk to the community, they talk to our employees, work with our board to create a mission, vision, and value, set of mission, vision, and values. Not every organization can do that, and some small organizations can't. I would suggest sitting down as a leadership team, and what you have to define what that is, executive team, or if it's all your leaders, depending on your size, and asking the hard questions about why do we exist as a company and who do we want to be as a company. And then some tips I would offer up is to shorter is better for most of these. If it's a 2 or 3 paragraph mission statement, your team's not going to remember those. I would also offer that these have to come from the heart. It's gotta give passion and reason behind what your workforce does and why they come to work every day. And if the statement doesn't draw your team members in, if it doesn't give them excitement and passion, I mean, who doesn't want to work in healthcare and provide the highest quality healthcare in the country, being world class, right? And so you got to make sure that they bring your team members in and engage them in something beyond just a paycheck. And I think that's a critical piece, but definitely shorter is sweeter, and just take some work to think through why you exist.
Yeah, I love that, shorter or sweeter. I've been out to other organizations, and those organizations that have those 1 to 3 or 4 or 5 word mission statements, they just roll off the tongue, and it's very easy for people to think about them all day long and really execute them when they're making their daily decisions. One of the ones I love, I've been to hospitals that have mission statements for saving lives. TED Talks has a mission statement, spreading ideas, right? So those two worders, they really, been to a school, their mission statement was every child can learn. So I love what you just said, John. It really hit home for me, and some of the best practices I've seen out there. One more question: how do you determine your core competencies or set forth in creating a viable core competency?
Yeah, so these can be really hard and really eye-opening. I think as a leadership team, when you sit down and say, what do we do that makes us unique in the market? What do we do that makes us outperform our competitors? And a lot of times, the first answers that come out when you say, well, can we prove that? Is there something objectively we can look at? And can our competitors also do that? It gets to be really hard. And some of the things that we may inherently think are core competencies aren't. But what I would argue is, if you take that objective view and say, what do we believe we do better? Can we measure that we do it better? And could our competitors set out and start doing this very quickly? And if you can answer those questions, then I think you've got your core competency. And then those that you thought were core competencies, maybe they're ones you wish were core competencies, set those as a future one. Say, we have a goal of making this a core competency. We are falling short because we are average compared to the rest of the industry, but we believe this is important ongoing for us. How do we get better, right? So I talked about at Paulding, we want to focus on employee safety. Quite frankly, we are right at average across the country if you look at healthcare and employee safety. And we want to be in the top 10% in the country in employee safety. And so we know what those metrics are objectively, and we have set our strategies to help work through that and work to get there. And one day we hope to say this is now a core competency and we do this very well, but it's not today.
Interesting. Very good approach. I like that. That said, though, what can you describe some of the biggest challenges you've had establishing the common NVV, mission, vision, value, culture, and or creating these core competencies? Which kind of challenges have you experienced?
Yeah, I think challenges range from organization to organization. Certainly for us, one of the big ones is how do you communicate and get understanding. At Paulding we have 1,200 employees, so how do I get 1,200 employees to understand the mission, vision, and values of the organization and our cultural motto? What do they all mean? How do they impact the work that they do? It takes some intentionality around how we use them, where we post them, to do that, and we embed it in some unique ways, right? So starting with the interview process, one of the things we do is we talk about our mission, vision, and values. One of the questions I like most and when we interview is, Dr. Smith, you're looking to become part of the WellStar team. Our vision is to provide world-class healthcare to every patient every time. How can you help us achieve that? Right. And so you start building in, even during the interview process, what the purpose of the organization is, what we're striving to be. And then you carry that forward, right? We hit it again in new employee orientation. I kick off every new employee orientation, and we talk about where we're going, the journey we're on, our mission, vision, values, how we leverage Baldrige and Magnet to get there, and why it's so important to reduce harm in healthcare. And then we carry it forward in our daily huddles, and we've got it posted in the hospital. And it's, our cultural motto is above every time clock and on every agenda. And it's almost becomes a marketing campaign, but with tangible expectations around it, right? And then our annual reviews are aligned to our mission, vision, and values. So we review people based on, how did you pursue excellence? How did you honor every voice this year?
Yeah, that's another great example. And I love that, because really that's what we're striving for. We're striving for that common mindset, that shared mindset, so that we can ensure, like you said, with 1,200 employees or a workforce of 1,200, getting everyone to align and really drive those decisions that work together and collaborate together to achieve a common outcome. That common mindset is really what we're trying to strive for here. So really appreciate those answers to those questions. We're out of time, so I just want to wrap this up. Don't forget to check in at floridasterling.com for the additional content for today's session, including my summary notes. And the video again will be posted to YouTube by tomorrow. Join us next week, March 8th at 12:15. And we will have a leadership briefing on identifying and satisfying your workforce profile. Monique Akanbi, HR professional and field services director with the Society of Human Resources Management, otherwise known as SHRM, will be with us. And again, feel free to join early. We will be replaying John's session from today. And until then, I hope you have a very happy week ahead. Thanks again for joining.